An entrepreneur, minority owner of the NBA's Dallas Mavericks, co-founder of Cost Plus Drug Company. Please welcome Mark Cuban, sir.
Yes, sir.
Security?
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
This is a... No! This is a Knicks town, friend. They love that. Now, are people in New York, are they, because of the history between the Mavericks and the Knicks, generally with the trades where you fleeced us to a certain extent, do you find there's a kindness that is...
Yeah, I mean,
extended to you from Knicks fans?
Literally, if I like to walk in New York, right? And just today, walking down the street, yeah, Cuban, we love you. And it's crazy. Literally, there's great basketball fans here, and I get all kinds of love.
And that's what you get in New York. That's what they shout at you.
Yeah, but now that's what I get. And now it's more thanks for JB, right? But yeah, that's what I get.
Right. Well, Jalen Brunson. Now, did you have any idea when Jalen Brunson was there? And I'm sorry to go down this road, but I'm a Knicks fan, and this is just, you're going to have to sit through it. Jalen Brunson was not. He started in the playoffs when
Luka got
was
hurt. Yeah.
Did you have any idea that he would become this all-NBA phenomenon? He's undersized.
No.
He doesn't. His footwork is so phenomenal.
No idea. I mean,
right.
He was talented, but he was picked in the second round. If everybody knew, he would have been a top 5 pick.
Right.
I mean, if you redraft that draft, other than Luka, he is a top 3 or 5 pick.
That's amazing.
It's crazy, yeah. But more credit to him. He worked on it.
Yeah, and it just seems like a phenomenal guy. And then decided to take a contract for less money than he could have made.
So let's talk politics.
By the way, now, you are in this interesting position in your career where you've sort of evolved. You are now, even though I think your leanings are probably you consider more independent, more libertarian, you are the left's favorite billionaire. You've become, because, and I don't know if it's because there's a certain mellowing that occurs as you get older, or if this new sort of tech bro phenomenon is so dystopian in its formulation.
Yeah, I mean, this is who I've always been. I haven't been like the rich guy trying to act like a rich guy. My friends are still my high school buddies, my college buddies, my rugby buddies. But watching what's happened in Silicon Valley is insane.
Right.
Right. It's not so much a support thing, it's more like a takeover thing. Trying to put themselves in a position to have as much control as possible. They want Trump to be the CEO of the United States of America, and they want to be the board of directors that makes him listen to them. It's not a good thing.
What is the ethos? Because it seems like in the old days of innovation, there was a certain amount of we're innovating the internet, we're taking things. Now it seems much more about sort of this social engineering and transhumanism, and we are going to join with computers, and together, 8 of us are going to run everything.
Dominate, right?
Is that the ethos you see?
Yeah, I think...
I'm going to go with yeah. You just said yeah.
Yeah, you know, they've gotten to the point now where they feel like they should control the world, right? And that there should be a CEO in charge of everything. But
because they have a good photo app?
Because they're rich as right? You know, it's just like you get to that point sometimes where I think they've lost the connection to real world.
Is it boredom? Like, is there a certain extent, like, if you're like a Bezos or one of those guys, you've sold so many books that you're just like, I'm going to live on Mars. Like, it's just...
I think it's more of what's their next act, right? We invented this, we did this, we created that. What can we do next? Somebody wants to go to Mars? Well, what can we do here back on Earth? Well, look at Elon, right? Elon, in being one of those powerful people, he's trying to be the most influential man in the world. It sounds like a commercial, but literally that's what Twitter has given him.
I've got to say, I think he might be that. I don't even think he's trying to be. When you talk about somebody who is setting up satellite links for war zones, and also controlling discourse in the most important media platform. I would think he is the most powerful.
Because Twitter is in almost every country, right? And so Twitter gives him the ability to connect to the prime minister, the head of every country in the world.
That's right.
And that person, whoever's in charge of that country, has an interest in what happens on Twitter. And what happens on Twitter, because of the control of the algorithms being the biggest user, is all dependent on Elon Musk. He literally, wherever his thumb wants to go, he gets to push as hard.
And he certainly, I mean, he's transparent about where he wants things to go. I think he's very clear that civil war is inevitable,
right,
and that white people are under the gun.
Concerning.
Yeah. Right. It's you know, it'll be like civil war is inevitable, and then he'll write underneath there, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of an understatement on there, but. I can't decide whether or not it's better to know exactly where he stands and know where he's going to be put the thumb on, because he's clearly a very bright guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And he has a media empire that has the largest reach and most influence of anything on the face of the earth. And there's no question he's going to leverage it in this election. No question.
But the crazy part is he has more impact globally than he does domestically, in my opinion, right? Because when you go on X, you see a preponderance of right-leaning people. You don't see a lot.
They're all over my For You. I've never clicked on any of these things.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's the way algorithms work, right?
What?
Yes.
They do the opposite of what I want?
Yes. When somebody tells them, when you write an algorithm, I haven't written a lot, it's been a while, but when you write one, you get to set the parameters of what you want to see happen. And he certainly has done that to the things he likes. But it's different in other platforms, and the good news is, 20% of adults in the United States are on Twitter? So, I mean, there's 80% who aren't there.
But isn't this a certain amount of tech bro malpractice, that there is this incredible need in the marketplace of something that is slightly less biased or, toxic when it comes to there? And like, they came out with Threads, and you're on it for 2 seconds, and you're like, I think I need an app.
No, I like Threads. Threads is getting better. Try it. No,
yeah,
it's getting
here's
better.
something that doesn't sell online. No, it's getting better. That may be the worst
sales pitch ever. Okay.
For any of these. But see, you do disrupt industries.
I try.
Like there is. See, that's why I would have thought, and I think you've said this, that Trump appealed to you at first because there is a certain outsider. And look, we both know our government. There is a status quo, and there is a capture by lobbies and by big businesses that write this legislation and end up gaining advantage that needs to be disrupted.
Correct.
When did it occur to you that he didn't necessarily want to free it, he wanted to have the deed to the swamp signed over to him?
About the third time I talked to him, right? He wasn't about changing. I mean, the conversations I would have with him, I'm like, there was a time when...
Are these phone conversations?
Yeah, phone conversations, yeah.
Is it Zoom?
No, it wasn't Zoom, right? That was pre-Zoom, actually.
Does he FaceTime?
No, that didn't FaceTime, right? But like we were talking about this one debate for CNBC that he wasn't going to be at. And I'm like, Donald...
Not going, Mark.
Not going.
It's not happening.
I'm like, Donald, why don't you go to a local small business and sit there at the table and just show off your business chops, right? And show people your business. He goes, Mark, Donald Trump and Mark Cuban don't go to people's houses and have dinner. Are you kidding me? That's who he is, right? When we talked about what's he going to do with the ground game, now I got all these religious people who are going to do the work for me.
Jesus. So he, in his mind, so I think this is very interesting because, and maybe you know this too, he runs a family business. So he is, in essence, a monarch. It's a dictatorship. And maybe there's not as much malevolence to his actions as, this America can be a subsidiary of the Trump organization because this is how I run it. And they might say, well, we have checks and balances and division of government. And he just thinks to himself, yeah, no, we're going to get rid of that.
Yeah, that's the sense I get, right?
That's what it is.
Yeah, this is my country, right? Everybody else is bad, Donald good.
Okay. And so Donald good. So whoever thinks Donald good also good.
Come along for the ride, right? I mean, he just brought hate and anger to politics, and that is his sales pitch.
When you talk to him, is that a part of his general conversation, or do you think that is a strategic demagoguing of he wants to get that emotion?
That wasn't what we talked about, but I think that's... Donald is a sales rep. He's a salesperson. He's going to follow what works. And he's going to try all kinds of different things. He's going to talk to all kinds of different people.
Right.
And he'll try things out. And if it works, he's going to do more of it.
Do you see him on his heels now? When was the last time that you sort of had these counseling sessions?
No, there weren't. I talked to him probably 2019. No, I talked to him during the pandemic because I was trying to help him with different things. Look, he's still the president of the United States, still our country.
Right.
So I tried to help him with PPE and a lot of different things, a lot of medical care type stuff.
Sure. Were you the guy who suggested the bleach? Is that you? Is that... Everything's going great. Everything's working. Cuban calls up and says, "Have you tried drinking liquid plumber?"
I did not say drink. I said inject.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. So all this is going on. You've soured. So what is your relationship now with this tech world, and how does AI fit into that? And how do you remain bullish on those innovations? When they so clearly are working to avoid any kind of regulation of these new innovations?
Okay, two things. One, they're there because they're rich, not because they're tech bros or because they just happen to make their money in tech. I don't think that's really applicable. The AI side, you know, I've been in technology for a long time, and you can always look at a new tech, PCs, networks, the internet, streaming, whatever, and say, okay, in 5 years, this is what's going to happen, right? You have a good sense. With AI, you can't do that. With large language models, we have no idea whether it's going to zig or zag or what the impact is going to be. And that's the good news and the bad news. The good news is we're dominating right now globally. The United States is. The bad news is...
In terms of?
In terms of the quality and the impact of the AI and the advancements that we're introducing in AI, the research that we're doing. We are, without question, the leader, and that's really important from a defense perspective, military, et cetera, and also, you know, from a business perspective. It's going to have a big impact on this country. I personally think it's generally positive, but there's a lot of uncertainty to come. And so when
now, what gives you the hope that it's generally positive? Because I'll, as a counterpoint, we heard the same thing about social media, and we heard the same thing about all these different innovations of the connectivity, and yet every time I turn on Congress, Zuckerberg is up there like, "Look, I'm really sorry. I didn't know it was going to kill all your daughters." Like,
no, remember, it's still just a short window. Social media, you know, has really only been prominent last 6 years, and I think we'll learn and we'll evolve, and the same thing will happen with AI. There's going to be points in time where it's up, right, and people are using it, but I think over time, particularly with Gen Z, right, Gen Z is a different beast. You know, boomers are idiots. I mean, we went from sex, drugs, and rock and roll to Fox News. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that, right? And they're trying to...
We haven't done well.
No, and they're trying to define regulations, right? And that's hard, right? That's really, really hard. And so I think Gen Z has a better understanding, a better feel for AI and where it's going, and will be able to come up with better uses, better implementations, and better regulations.
Does it concern you that the implementation timeframe, so when you think about the Industrial Revolution, right, and you think about the disruption, or globalization, the disruption to the workforce, the way that labor can travel and labor cannot travel, but capital can.
Right.
And all these different things that were kind of a race to the bottom for American workers to a large extent. But all those changes took place over sometimes a century, sometimes decades. The changes in AI, the So when you've got something that disrupts to maybe even a larger extent than globalization did, to maybe a larger extent than the Industrial Revolution did, and it's going to happen by Thursday.
Yep.
In what world are humans in any way capable and set to withstand that disruption?
I think we'll be able to withstand it, but I think it's going to be very disruptive. And the problem is, it's going to happen anyways. And, you know, somebody here, your son at Duke, right, can say, I've got this great idea. I'm going to implement it with an open source large language model, and I'm going to take it in this direction.
That's so weird. He did say that to me.
Right? But Gen Z is different, right? Gen Z, I think, looks at humanity differently, is kinder. Like, I've got 3 kids, 15, 18, and 21, right?
Right.
And they're just nicer, right? They're not like we were.
So are you trying to say, like, are we weathering what is the last gasp of this kind of more misanthropic moment in history. So in your mind, whatever happens, this is going to be a more misanthropic decade that will be ameliorated by this younger generation.
I hope so, right? I hope so, because the regulatory the way we've always done politics right now is everybody's chasing power, and nothing will give you more power than military and AI. And I think the algorithm, I mean, going back to algorithms again, right, driven by AI, that's the most powerful element in the world right now, because everybody just gets whatever they're seeing reinforced. And if you want to influence somebody, just manipulate the algorithm and you'll get their attention. And so, but I think...
So what's the remedy on that? If there's no one working a pushback, if pushing back on that is considered
you just got to go
censorship.
Through it. It's just one of those things where you've got to go through it.
It's an evolution of a new media model.
Just an evolution of technology, more than media, right? Because if we don't do it, the Chinese and the Russians will. Because the only thing that holds AI back is processing power, electricity, and ingenuity. Right? And I think our ingenuity wins. I'm still a big believer in American exceptionalism. I still believe that we've got the best technologists in the world.
Right.
And I think that's why we have to open that door for AI.
So ultimately, it becomes a question of the world is going to be carved up in the way that it's always been somewhat carved up in terms of its resources. The question is it carved up by the Western world, or is it carved up by
somebody else?
A different world? And do they set up a different system? And I'm assuming that Russia and China see a unique vulnerability in the West's ascension in this moment that's been the world order since 1945.
Sure, right? Everybody looks at it, right, and looks at it and says, AI, he who controls AI, right? And so, but we've done a good job of limiting processors. The new Semiconductor Act will help us quite a bit, and we'll bring things, we're already doing most of those things here.
Right. So how do you resist the ring, right? So like, Lord of the Rings, the Ring of Power. Like, it's the one thing, boy, when you get the ring, you just don't want to let it go. How do you resist that? Because you've got the money, you've got the influence. You could be that guy. You could be setting those things up and doing all that, but you're just trying to get us, like, better generic aspirin. Like, what is happening? What makes you put it that way? No, but I'm saying.
Because I know what I know, and I know what I can do. I know what I'm good at, right? And
you're not tempted by the ring that's in front of you.
Because I think there's a different ring, right? Because, yeah, AI could be the end-all, be-all technologically, but that doesn't play to my strengths. And the ups and downs and ins and outs are just not me. But you want to talk about pharmacy, what could be better than up the healthcare system in the United States of America and make it so it's affordable?
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's just, there's a path there.
There is, I imagine, when you get in that position, at that height, you can't help but hear the siren call of, you could run this whole thing, Cuban.
Maybe a little bit, but, just, I hate to use the cliches, but the way I was raised, I've got 3 kids, right? And I don't want to miss that. I don't want to be 95 and look back and say, I was president, but I didn't get to know my kids at all. I'd rather say, healthcare and everybody's healthier and everybody's got a better world to live in, and my kids and I are friends, we're close, they bring over the grandkids and the kids' kids, and that's just more important to me.
Right. And do you have your eye on other industries right now where you can do sort of the same kinds of things?
There's pharmacy, and we're, costplusdrugs.com. See, I'm going to get that sales pitch in there.
Yeah.
Costplusdrugs.com is literally in process of having a significant impact on the drug market, right? We are pushing generic drugs down now. We're right around the corner from...
Well, you're negotiating prices in a way that hasn't been done prior.
Right. So when you go... Prior to us, there was no transparency whatsoever, right? And so nobody knew what the price of any medication was, whether you're an employer paying for your
And it's just run by these boards.
Yeah, these pharmacy benefit managers are dictating prices left and right. They're basically stealing money from employers and employees. And so we walked in there and said, what's the one missing piece? Transparency. So when you go to costplusdrugs.com, you put in the name of the medication you might take. Let's just say Tadalafil, right? I know you don't know what that is.
Tadalafil.
Yeah, sure, Tadalafil.
I'm so hopped up on Tadalafil right now, you have no idea.
Do you know what it is?
I don't.
Generic Cialis.
As I said before, I am so hopped up on Tadalafil.
So happens when you go to costplusdrugs.com and you put in Tadalafil or whatever,
Right.
first thing we do is we show you our cost. Then we show you our markup, which is always 15%, and everybody gets the same price. Because we're mail order to start, we're starting to partner with pharmacies now. There's a shipping fee, and then there's a fee for the pharmacist to review everything.
Right.
And when you do it that way,
and this is legal.
Of course it's legal, yeah. It's good old American capitalism. But let me just tell you the impact. There are drugs that, there's a drug called imatinib for chemotherapy.
Right.
That when we started, the price of imatinib, if you just walked into a big pharmacy, a big chain pharmacy, was going to be $2,000. You go to costplusdrugs.com, it's under $30. There's a drug, droxidopa, right?
That's just insane.
I had a friend, Landon, who was in a terrific car crash, and he needed this drug, droxidopa, and lost his insurance. It was going to be $30,000 every 3 months. I'm like, let me just check to see if we can get it. $64 a month, and the price has gone down since. All because we were transparent.
But, like, weren't there dudes like Martin Shkreli in jail for shit like that? Like, when you jack prices up like that, and why can't the United States government negotiate in terms of, if you're the largest customer to any industry, it's criminal that you wouldn't use any leverage to make those things more available to people.
The problem was there's this thing called pharmacy benefit managers, right? And they're basically responsible for doing the negotiating with, to a certain extent, Medicare, but with all the large employers. If you're one of those big companies that cover 150 million employees across the country,
right.
That's who you negotiate with. And the first rule when they negotiate, they say is, you can't talk about this. It's like Fight Club. You cannot say what your price is. You can't say what we're doing in our negotiation. And they got so big doing that that nobody ever questioned them. We come along, and actually Martin Shkreli plays a little part in this whole thing, because when he got thrown in jail, I was talking to Alex Ashmayansky, my partner, and it's like, if this dude can just jack up the price, it is not an efficient market. That means nobody knows what the real cost is.
Right.
If we publish our price, boom, the whole world's going to change. And as it turns out, the FTC just came out with this report criticizing the PBMs. They used our pricing data. The smartest thing we did was...
So this brings up, so FTC is the Federal Trade Commission, and boy, there's nothing the tech world hates more
than the FTC,
than the FTC.
Right.
So how does that square?
Well, like any agency, they do some things right and some things wrong. But in this case with the PBMs, they're crushing them, and it's justified.
Now, is it something that can't be done throughout the healthcare? Because one of the difficulties with healthcare is the contingencies of you can't really comparison shop when you have a heart attack. Like,
right.
You're basically
right.
saying, drive me to the closest hospital.
Right, and take care of me.
But those prices you're talking about, you could get heart attack treatment at this hospital, it's $150,000, but you go up the street and it's $12,000.
And it's all about...
Nobody knows.
Well, see, and what happens is, who's paying when you, God forbid, have a heart attack and you go there, and let's just say it's going through your employer.
Right.
Your employer has no idea what they're paying. And so what we're saying is, on drugs first, and now we're just getting it approved today, we're going to publish all contracts. Never before has it been done where, for my companies, we're saying, if you want to do business with us, if this hospital system
right.
wants to work with my companies, whatever it may be, we're going to publish them and put them online for anybody to see all of our pricing.
But so then why I think that's fantastic. But I'm curious then, why is there such pushback on this idea of applying those same kinds of competitions and things to our healthcare system? We talk about, we have got a privatized healthcare system and it's the best in the world, but very clearly it doesn't function like a free market.
No, it's not free market
in any way at all. So what is so terrible about getting everybody healthcare? Like, why is that such an anathema?
That's why I'm doing this. But these companies, these PBMs and the big insurance companies, they call them the BUCAs, the largest insurance companies, right? They are so big, like I keep on saying, big employers cover 150 million people, right? And the CEO of this big company doesn't know much about healthcare and their healthcare costs. And so they just say to them, okay, we're going to write you a check for a rebate, even though it's your sickest employees that are paying for that rebate.
Right.
They just don't know. And
it's so interesting because it's such a non-villainous... nobody ever talks about, like, big prescription benefit manager.
Right, like that's a good thing, right?
It's always like big oil is going to come down, or big tobacco, or big pharma, and it's really like the big middle manager.
Yeah, that's what it is, right? And you cut them out, right? There's no reason for the big ones that control 90% of the prescriptions that are filled, there's no reason for them to exist. There are others that are called pass-through PBMs, right? That show you all your claims, show you all your data, show you all your pricing, that do it for a fraction of the price.
Right.
So there's an opportunity
Disruption, baby.
Disruption,
That's
baby.
what I like to see. What's that now? What else do you have your eye on as far as
Healthcare.
It's going to be healthcare.
Healthcare, yeah.
I'm with that.
I'm with that too.
And it might be, with that money, if you could help the Knicks. Okay, forget it. No, everything's fine. It's all fine.
Let's go, Mavs.
No, stop it. Thank you very much for coming by. It was always a fascinating conversation. Check out costplusdrugs.com. Mark Cuban.